Before I even hit 100 pages, I knew I was hooked. Hi everybody, my name is Sam Pedro and welcome to today's video. I'm probably the only person in the world who had never heard of the series Discworld. I only found out about it about a week ago. When I read fiction, it's usually science fiction with a little fantasy mixed in there, and I just have no idea how I was totally oblivious to Terry Pratchett's Discworld. And when I was first introduced to the series, I thought it sounded so interesting and I knew I wanted to read it. And so I went and purchased the first book, which is The Color of Magic. It's the first book in the Discworld series, which I've also come to learn that this is not the book usually recommended to begin Discworld. But I like to usually read things in chronological order, so I knew I'd be safe, so I just went and purchased The Color of Magic. So I'm planning on doing a series about Discworld, which I'm going to call Discovering Discworld, where each video I discover Discworld a little bit more book by book, and I'll just share my thoughts about each book as I read it and as I learn more about the Discworld universe. There are 41 books in the Discworld series, and I'm going to try my best to read them in chronological order. The only hiccup is I use Audible a lot, and a lot of the early Discworld books are not on Audible, so I'm going to have to purchase physical copies of those books. But to kind of help me get through all the books quickly, I'm going to also be listening to some of the ones on Audible, which are later in the series. So let's begin with book number 1, The Color of Magic, which is the first book in the Discworld series. And I will say I loved this book. Before I even hit 100 pages, I knew I was hooked. I knew I was going to read the entire Discworld series. It just sucked me in, and I love the story, I love the setting, and I loved the characters. So just a quick summary of The Color of Magic. There's really two main characters. There's a wizard named Wincewind. He's not a good wizard. He has no skills at wizardry. I don't even think he's officially a wizard. He just kind of is mistake prone and just kind of floating through this world. And the second character is named Two-Flower, and he is called a tourist because he's visiting Ankh-Morpork, which is this kind of main city in Discworld. And where he's from, they don't interact between Ankh-Morpork and where he's from. And so he's the first ever tourist to this part of Discworld. And how the book is set up is that there's 4 parts or 4 sections, and each of them are kind of almost a standalone short story or a novella, where these two characters are exploring different parts of Discworld. And I really like that about this book because I feel like that setup quickly introduces me to kind of the absurdity of Discworld, and also I get to explore different parts of Discworld in different settings. So first we're in Ankh-Morpork, which is kind of that main gritty town. I think it's kind of fashioned after an old medieval London. We also get introduced to a place called Wormburg, which is an inverted mountain. So the mountaintop is actually touching the ground and then it goes up into the sky. And then we also are at the rim of the Discworld, so the very edge of the world. We get to have a lot of fun there. So that's just a brief summary of The Color of Magic. I think the writing is phenomenal. I kind of had read a little bit about Terry Pratchett and his writing style before I started reading this book, and it's pretty unique. He uses a lot of humor and a lot of puns, and it just works so well in this world because it's just so, absurd. It's so comical, but it's still a very interesting story. And so I really liked that element. And so I think that's all I will say about The Color of Magic. I'm excited to start this series. From everything I've read, it only gets better. Terry Pratchett kind of hits his stride in writing Discworld books, and so I'm excited to explore more of that and to share that with you. If you've read The Color of Magic, let me know below what you think. Did I make a mistake starting with this book? And let me know what your favorite Discworld novels are. I'm very curious to hear that. And so thanks for watching. Up next will be The Light Fantastic. Thanks.